Hello, and welcome back to another video with us here at the Old Warlock. Now, this is likely going to be somewhat shorter of a video, as long as I don't ramble on too much. But if you have watched our videos in the past, or if you know us as individuals, which many of you watching this do, you know that neither of us play often or like 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, which is the most recent edition of D&D. One of our main qualms with 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is the combat system. We've always felt, especially I have always felt, that it's much too easy to go and fight creatures, especially creatures that are difficult to fight in AD&D or are a higher level than you. And we've looked through all of the forums online and found lots of very, very angry discussions going on between people about this. So we're not going to get angry, are we?
I'm not.
We're going to be very calm.
I'm not going to get angry.
We're going to be very calm throughout this whole video, and we're just going to talk about the differences between AD&D and 5th edition combat. In order to test these supposed differences, so thinking that it's more difficult to fight in AD&D than 5th edition, I decided to do a little experiment. With my experiment, I created 2 characters, one in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, and one in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. These characters, when I rolled them up, were the exact same. I used the same rolls to create them. They're both the same class, armor class, everything. They have the same hit points. And
the same strength, intelligence, wisdom.
Yep.
Same characteristics
across the board.
All the way down, right.
Everything's exactly the same. They're both first level fighters, and all that I wanted to do was see how they would both fare attacking, strictly attacking, not defending, against a armor class level 2 human, or armor class 18 human, I guess, for 5th edition. I did this in 2 ways. I did it once when they were first level, and I did it once with an assumed progression to 5th level, both times attacking with just a regular longsword. So I had all this thought up, and then I rolled out 10 rounds. I rolled out 10 attacks, completely randomly. And I had them go through and to see whether or not each of these rolls would hit 10 times. How many times out of 10 these first / 5th level fighters would hit this armor class 2/18 human.
In both AD&D and 5th edition. So it was the same. You used the same roll results in both.
I used the same roll results, but I created the characters after I did the stat rolls and equipped them. I followed the rules in the respective edition. So AD&D, after you roll up a character, you're done. That's it. You have some bonuses that are outlined in the player's handbook, but that's it. But in the 5th edition character, I had to go through and do quite a bit of changes based off of class, and especially once my character got to level 5, I had to go through and increase a lot of the stats by actually more than I thought that I would have to. So they became much more powerful between 1st level and 5th level, which did not happen in the AD&D character that I rolled out. So let's just go through this. I rolled out, as I said, 10 different numbers, and then I went through. Let's start with 1st level. The 1st level AD&D fighter was able to hit this character 2 times out of 10 with completely random rolls.
But using those same rolls, you then applied that same roll to the 5th edition.
Yeah,
character.
I applied the exact same rolls to the 5th edition character and tried to see whether or not there would be any difference with the combat there. And there was, surprisingly enough, 5 out of the 10 times the 5th edition character was able to hit the armor class 2 opponent.
So 20%, he hit 20% in AD&D and 50% in 5th edition.
20% of the time the AD&D character hit, 50% of the time, with the exact same rolls.
With the exact same number.
With the exact same number, the 5th edition character was able to hit. Wow. Then I did the same thing, and I went through and I looked at 5th level. Like I said, I used the exact same rolls again for 5th level characters. This time, the 5th level Advanced Dungeons & Dragons fighter was able to hit 5 times out of 10, which is what the 1st level 5th edition character was able to do.
That's what you're saying, yeah.
So at 5th level in AD&D, you effectively have, based off of these numbers entirely, you effectively have the same combat ability as a 1st level fighter in 5th edition. And that was where I started to take issue with my little experiment, because that's kind of ridiculous.
But what was it? What was it in 5th edition?
In 5th edition, my
With the
5th
fifth
level
level
fighter. Okay, this is where I was very surprised. Now, there are increases in AD&D for amount of attacks per round, depending on what level you are. But in 5th edition, a 5th level fighter automatically gets 2 attacks per round, which is not the case in AD&D. We think that it might be 3 attacks per 2 rounds.
I think so.
So you alternate.
By the time you're at 5th, yeah.
Yeah, but
I think so.
But I'm not entirely sure about that. But every character who's a 5th level fighter gets 2 attacks per round in 5th edition. So I had to roll up a new set of numbers in order to account for that difference. So with this one, let's go down the line here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 out of 20 times now, the 5th edition character was able to hit the armor class 18 in his world fighter.
So the point we're trying to make here is that, and this was an experiment that Alexander took on, one of the things that we like about playing some of the more old school Dungeons and Dragons, either 0 level or basic or AD&D, whatever it is, it's more difficult. It's more difficult. That's really the bottom line. It's more difficult, especially at lower levels. And to me, especially, I mean, I'm in my 42nd year of DMing. There's a lot to be said for it being difficult to play the game, because you become more attached to your character, I believe, if they have to go through a lot of adversity to get to the point where they're powerful. When you have characters dying fairly regularly at lower levels, when you finally hit that one that manages to get past level 2, suddenly their life becomes very important to you, and your decisions become very crisp and clean, and you start to make more plans about how you can do things without actually having to kick open the door and go in and kill somebody. Yeah, that happens still, but I think that there's just a bit more keep out of combat mentality, and more of a how can I get my character through this without having to roll the die or the dice. Whereas it appears to me, and I think we've played twice in 5th edition.
I've played more than you have.
You have. I think I've played twice in 5th edition. And to me, there's much more of I'm approaching this from a position of strength as opposed to a position of weakness, which you would in AD&D. And I think that takes a little bit away from the game. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing myself.
This, what he just said, flies in the face of things that many people have said make 5th edition better than AD&D. Because when we read through a lot of the forums, when we talk to people, there seems to be the argument that 5th edition puts more of an emphasis on role-playing.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
That's not true. Because in 5th edition, once you reach at least 5th level, you're not scared really of anything except the most powerful of monsters. And in AD&D at 5th level, pretty much everything can still kill you. If you get in a fight with a farmer with a pitchfork, there's still a decent enough chance to scare you that he's going to kill you. Even though there's no logical reason that should happen, it's still a probable chance. In 5th edition, that's not the case. That's all thrown out the window. So when you're not scared of anything, you remove that aspect of reality from the game. And when you remove the aspect of reality, it's not role-playing anymore. It's just Skyrim. I'm sure a lot of you have played that. And when you reach a certain level, you can just beat your way through everything. You are no longer scared of anything. And that takes away any intelligence, any planning. Not intelligence, I'm sorry, that's offensive. Any planning, but you know what I'm saying. Any planning, anything like that is automatically removed from the game when you're no longer scared of anything.
Or at least it's lessened.
Exactly.
At least there's a lessened need for thinking your way through an adventure.
You're no longer a regular person anymore, you're a superhero. And
I have heard it referred to that in a lot of the forums.
Yeah, so have I.
It's almost it's a superhero D&D.
You're not yet, like I said, you're not scared of anything. In Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, most of the time, unless the DM has structured it otherwise, which we've had experiences with, you're just a guy, or you're just a dwarf, or you're just an elf going out and trying to survive and do the best that you can in this world. And there's always that fear, that like omnipresent fear in the back of your head that you might turn the wrong corner and something much more powerful than you is going to kill you. And I've never had that feeling when I played 5th edition. And this is just a testament to that being the case.
To it actually being integrated, an integral part of the rules
Yeah.
themselves, as opposed to having a certain DM who looks at it that way. And I think the argument can be made that if you're playing 5th edition, you can have it can be more difficult based on your dungeon master, but that to me would imply that you're inflating the power of monsters, or you're increasing the number of monsters that you might come across.
And you shouldn't have to be walking out of a cave and meet an army of 500 orcs in order to have a challenge.
In order to have a challenge. That's a good way to put it.
Anything should be able to kill you on any given day, no matter how powerful you are.
However, having said that, and he is very adamant about this. This is something that sits in his craw.
I make people who play with me abandon most 5th edition rules because I don't like them.
But having said that, if that's the kind of style of play that you're looking for, then by all means do it. Anything that has people sitting around the table playing a game, a role-playing game, to me that's great. It's just that every now and then I come across someone who says, well, anybody who would sit down and play by the old rules, they don't know what they're doing, or they're stupid, or they're too old to adapt, or whatever.
And I'd like to clarify.
And I think that bothers me.
That's what I take issue with. If you play 5th edition because you prefer that style of play and everything about it, that's fine. I take absolutely no issue with that. As long as, again, like you said, as long as you're playing role-playing games, you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, that's good enough for me. But don't go after the AD&D players, man. They're just, especially people who've been doing it for a long time. It's just what they like to do and what they know how to do.
Well, and I think that the other argument that bothers me, that I do see from time to time, is that, well, D&D 5th edition is the most role-playing centric version of Dungeons and Dragons ever. And to me, that's usually a statement I hear from somebody who doesn't really understand the game very well,
or who has never played the original AD&D.
Right, but I think at the end of it, the role playing that you get out of the game is all dependent on the person who's running the game and the people that you're playing with. There are some people who like to wrap themselves up in the rules and play within that system. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's more statistics based. But I would rather play in a game where you roll the dice 3 times a night and that's it, and everything else goes on with discussion, and that's not edition centric. That's just based on the style of play, and the style of play can vary within AD&D, it can vary within 5th edition, it can also vary within Pathfinder or anything else. So I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is that, there are differences between AD&D and 5th edition, but there shouldn't be anyone out there saying that one edition is better than the other.
Yeah.
It should be based more on holding up your style of play. That's what I'm saying. Alexander's a little more intense about it.
I mean, because this is not to say that everything about 5th edition is bad. For example, we've taken perception checks directly out of 5th edition and incorporated them into our largely AD&D style of play, because it's something that's a nice addition. It works well in the right context. It's an easy way to do, as it's described, perception. So there's nothing wrong with incorporating different things from different editions into your play.
And looking at this is the 5th edition DM's guide that I've got. These little paper tags, these are all the things that I have taken out of this book to integrate into my style of play, because they're really, really good ideas. But that doesn't necessarily mean, however, that I agree with the combat system or the character generation system. So, anyway.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. I'd like to apologize. I don't actually.
He doesn't apologize.
I don't apologize if I offended you. Bring us from 50 views down to 49, man.
Or 50 likes down to 49.
Exactly.
Yeah. But no, it's something that every now and then you just kind of feel like you have to make a comment. Mm-hmm. So that's what this video for him was largely about. And
that's our 2 cents worth.
Yeah, or $1.50 or something like that. Anyway, I'm Jim from the Old Warlock. This is Alexander the Angry from the Old Warlock. Have a great game, whatever you're playing.
Bye.